So, welcome everybody to our Pink Shirt Day, learning the signs of bullying in our seniors community. Today, with me, I have Marissa. Marissa is from our elder abuse shelter. And Marissa, how long have you been with our elder abuse shelter?
Yeah, I've been with the shelter for about 5 years. I'm the assistant manager there now, and so I've been in that position for about 2 years.
Okay, and how did you get started in this kind of area of support?
Yeah, I would say initially it wasn't really a demographic or a social cause that I knew a whole lot about. I think elder abuse is something that's not spoken about very often, or a lot of people aren't aware of it. And so just kind of started without a lot of knowledge and just with the intrigue of wanting to know more. And yeah, so over the 5 years, I started as a casual with the shelter and then became a caseworker working more directly with clients and supporting them in keeping themselves safe, living independently in the community, and then ultimately thriving.
Awesome. And then what kind of education do you need to be able to do this kind of work?
Yeah, so I have my degree in social work. Our staff at the shelter do have a lot of them are social workers, but we also have people with a psychology background, sociology, nursing, things like that.
Okay. Um, Tell us a little bit about the shelter. How many people do you house? Kind of quickly, what's the process there?
Yeah, so we support individuals who are 55 and older. They have to be escaping elder abuse, and they are asked is that they're functionally independent. So they need to be able to manage their day-to-day tasks relatively independently, just because we don't really have medical staff on our team. And yeah, we have 14 beds, so we can support any gender. We can support men, women. We have people of various cultural backgrounds, various languages. Sometimes we have individuals who don't speak any English, and people from out of town, sometimes out of province. So yeah, it's quite diverse in who we support.
Excellent. Okay. So let's kind of get to the meat and potatoes of this. What is elder abuse?
Yeah, so elder abuse is any mistreatment, or it could be failure to provide care of an older adult. So that can be things like physical abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse is one that we see quite often. There can be neglect, as I had mentioned, sexual abuse, and things like that. There can be other forms as well. So culture to culture, there are different interpretations of what abuse might look like. It could be spiritual. Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways that people experience mistreatment.
Okay. And what are the most common abusers in a senior's life?
Yeah, with seniors specifically, I think it looks a little bit different than maybe younger adults. So people in their 30s, 40s, for example, I would say that the most prevalent would be an intimate partner. However, with seniors, we see a lot of abuse coming from adult children. So often people might live with their adult child, or they are financially more connected with their adult child, things like that. And so often we see abuse coming from that, from those adult children. And then intimate partners are also more prevalent as well. Sometimes we do see abuse coming from maybe a roommate or a landlord that the individual lives with, things like that.
Okay. If you're an outside observer, what are some of the things that might tip you off if a senior you care about is being abused?
Yeah, I think the most common, of course, that most of us think of when it comes to abuse would be those physical signs. So there might be bruising or scratches or broken bones, things like that are quite obvious that someone's being abused. Sometimes people might say, "Oh, I've fallen. This isn't a result of abuse," but those are kind of the most obvious signs that we should be asking some questions.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other ways that people experience abuse are a little bit more covert, I guess. And so I would say typically the best indicator is just a change. So if you know someone to be very outgoing, if you know someone to be charismatic and happy, and maybe they have become more withdrawn, maybe they aren't talking to you as much anymore, they don't seem themselves, things like that can be an indicator. Or if there's financial abuse happening, then maybe they're not able to meet their needs. Maybe they're losing weight because they aren't able to afford groceries.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're getting eviction notices, or just not able to meet those kinds of basic necessities of life. I would say that would be another indicator.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you suspect that there might be an issue, what are the best ways to start a conversation without putting somebody off or putting them on high alert, or because you don't want them to back off?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you approach that kind of?
Yeah, I would say if you are close with that individual and you want to know more about what's going on and you're concerned, I would say speaking privately is ideal. So if you're able to have the person come to a private space with you, or maybe they're home alone, that would be the best opportunity for them to open up. And then I would also just say to be curious and just be broad and just say, hey, I've noticed that you're it doesn't seem like you are as outgoing as you used to be. I'm wondering if there's things happening in your life that maybe you're not sharing about.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've noticed that when I come over, you always used to offer me, I don't know, you would always offer me muffins, and now that's not really happening. So maybe what's changed? And so just kind of keeping it broad, just to give them that opportunity to feel safe to ask, or to safe to open up, is really a good way to go about it.
Okay. Is it better to, be doing an activity like maybe going for a walk when you're having these conversations? Like, is there ways to maybe make people feel more comfortable as opposed to like face to face?
Yeah, I think in those informal settings, people might feel a little bit more willing to open up. So maybe it doesn't feel quite so much like a confrontation, or things like that. It might feel a little bit less serious to just kind of, at least to get the conversation started, to just mention those in your typical day-to-day activities. So if you are already going for a walk with a friend, then that would be a great opportunity.
Okay.
And so, yeah, if walking is what you do, and then one day you say, I would like to sit down with you at this time and place, that can feel quite overwhelming, right? So just kind of integrating that in your usual routine would be great.
Don't pick a busy restaurant.
Yeah, ideally not. Yeah, and I mean, if that's the safest place for you to do that, then if the home isn't the safest place to have that conversation, then you have to do what you have to do. But it can be quite emotional, and so yeah, if you have a private setting, that would be ideal for sure.
Okay. Are there some things to keep out for, like warning signs, if the person's, you need to stop because you're triggering them? What kind of things should you look for so that you know when it's time to back off?
Right. Yeah, I would say if you are talking to somebody about your concerns, I mean, you know them best, you know that person, and you can kind of get the indication of when they might be feeling agitated or might be feeling uncomfortable. And so I would say it's best not to push that. I think it's important to just express general concern, and saying, I'm concerned. These are maybe some of the things I'm seeing. Maybe don't use the word abuse right off the bat, because that might put people on the defensive. So just expressing your concern, expressing that you want to help, and that you are available when that person is ready. Those are definitely the best ways
Okay.
to go about that.
If somebody does kind of fly off the handle as protection for themselves, is there anything you can suggest to bring the situation back down a little bit and then just give them space without, say, ruining a friendship or having them cut themselves off? Is there anything that you can suggest? Is it just, I love you and, call me later?
Yeah, I would say that's exactly it. So it's just important to maintain calm yourself. If you are talking to someone about this topic and you're quite concerned that person is maybe experiencing like a fight or flight response, or they're going through a lot of stress and a lot of trauma, and so it's important to know that you, by you expressing your concern, that's not necessarily personal if they react in that way. It's because maybe it really hit home for them. Maybe that's the first time that they're coming to terms with the fact that they're experiencing an abusive situation. And so just to maintain your calm, don't take it personally, express your love and care for the person, and just remind them, I'm here. I want to help you, and I want to keep you safe. And so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. If you do feel more confident that there's an issue, what are the first steps that somebody can take as an outsider?
Yeah, so it's important to assess the situation. If it's quite a severe situation where you know that there's really intense physical abuse, you're worried about their physical health, maybe their life, I would always advise that you call police. Police can come in and do a wellness check, and so they can come and check on the individual. I will say that sometimes that can potentially increase the abuse. So if an individual, say police comes and then they say, no, I'm fine, I don't want to leave, then the abusive person might escalate the abuse, because now police are aware of what's going on. So you have to tread carefully on that. But of course, if there's ever imminent risk, then that's definitely what I would advise. Otherwise, like I had said, it's important to express care for the person, ask what's going on, maybe just asking, what do you need to feel safe? Maybe they do want to leave the situation. Maybe they want to stay, and just ask, hey, can you check in with me once a week? If you don't hear from me, please call police, or please come to my house and see what's going on, just to kind of gauge what the individual would like. Yeah, and just always being curious, being empathetic, and sometimes too they might want a professional involved instead. So you can, if you have the resources at hand, you can also say, these are some professional supports that I think might be helpful to you.
Okay. So let's shift over to the family dynamics. And family dynamics is very difficult. And a lot of people aren't comfortable having outsiders know what's happening in their home, especially with, the older generation. That's just not how you did things. What happens at home stays at home. Can someone be there for a person they care about in the short term and the long term? Like, how do you support somebody who doesn't really want to, let outsiders in? Like, how do you support that person? I mean, if you know there's an issue, but
Yeah.
They kind of shut it down.
Yeah, it's challenging. I would say it's really hard to see your friend or family member hurting and feeling like there's not a lot for you to be able to do. But just continuing to be there for that person is really important. Somebody might acknowledge that they're experiencing abuse, but might not use that language. So we want to make sure we're using the language that they're using to describe it, and just making sure that they know what options are available to them. We can't force options on people. Older adults are, they're not kids.
Yeah.
Older adults can make their own decisions, if they choose to stay in a situation. We just need to make sure that we're doing our best to equip them with the knowledge that they need to stay safe, and equip them with resources that they might need if they choose to leave the situation or seek help.
Okay. So how do you, out of love, not become a bully yourself? because you're afraid for your friend or your family member, and that the word should comes out, and the dictating what this person should be doing or could be doing. Or so how do you stop yourself from contributing to the issue?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. That's a challenging question. I think if you see someone repeatedly, maybe staying in a situation that is unsafe for them, it's hard to continuously see that and feel like you've done everything you can, but it's maybe not, you're not seeing the results that you want to, and so yeah, I would say as much as you can, make sure that you're taking care of yourself, that you have your own outlets to express your frustration or your worry or things like that. Um, Making sure that you understand that this person is doing their best with the resources they have, and so maybe somebody is staying in a situation because of financial reasons, or maybe their older adult child has a mental health concern, and they feel that they need to do their best to care for that child, things like that. And so just kind of asking yourself, or trying to maybe understand a little bit more about um, what might be contributing to this person's complex feelings around staying or going or seeking support or not seeking support, and just trying to kind of gain that understanding helps give some context and maybe helps us have a little bit more patience and compassion for the situation.
Okay. How do you be a good listener?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of ways. I think they probably change between cultures as well. But I would say just showing that you're engaged is really important, making sure that you're leaning in, you're making eye contact, maybe kind of repeating back to somebody what they might be saying, and expressing, okay, so you've said this, here's what I'm hearing. Does that sound correct to you? And yeah, like I said, it can change from culture to culture. So when I'm working with individuals, if I notice that maybe they're making no eye contact, that might be more comfortable for them. And so also just kind of mirroring the body language of the person you're speaking with can help create a safe environment for them.
Okay. How do you keep yourself safe if it is an abusive, like physically abusive situation? Uh, it's hard when you care about somebody, but abusers themselves are scary, especially with somebody who's violent. So how do you keep yourself safe if that's the situation that you're in?
Yeah, I would say if you know that physical abuse is a concern, I wouldn't necessarily go to that individual's home as much as you can, meeting people out in the community or inviting them over to your place. Those kinds of things would be important, because you can't help if you yourself are not safe, right? So just making sure that that you're protecting yourself in that way is important, and then also having a support network for yourself as well. So you want to keep yourself mentally safe too, and just making sure that you have people to lean on, so that you need to be supported so that you can support the individual you're concerned about. And then safety planning works as well. So if the only option is to go to the home, maybe you notify somebody, hey, I'm going to be at this address. I'm expecting to be here for about 2 hours. Can you please call me to check in if you don't hear anything? Those kinds of options would be something you could look at.
Okay. Um, what are some of the more common struggles of someone who is being abused? Like, what are they dealing with? What are they struggling with?
Yeah, I think that especially for older adults who are experiencing abuse by their adult children, I think, or experiencing abuse in general, would be shame. I think shame is often a huge one. Emotional, verbal, psychological abuse kind of underlies pretty much all of the other forms of abuse. And so you're made to feel like you should be ashamed. You're made to feel guilty. Older adults might not want to come forward with the abuse they're experiencing because maybe they feel I raised this person, it's my fault. And so those kinds of feelings of shame and guilt, I would say, are definitely most prevalent. And then also too, just kind of feeling trapped. So there might be financial reasons that you have to stay in a certain situation, or that they might be your only connection if an individual is very isolated. Things like that can contribute for sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else someone can do to support somebody who's in an abusive or a bullying situation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would just recommend staying connected to that person, checking in with the person. If there are those opportunities for them to open up, making sure that you're able to listen and to support them, hold their hand through what they're experiencing, making sure you're not putting shame on them for you should be leaving, or um, you should whatever you should be doing. Just kind of avoiding those should words and just remaining curious, remaining non-judgmental. And yeah, I would say if you're able to educate yourself on resources and what's out there, then you're prepared to present those to people. So if maybe they just don't even know that there's help out there for these kinds of situations.
Okay.
And so just reminding people there is help.
One last question, kind of in and around this one. Is it worthwhile? Like, can a third party make a police report without asking for a wellness check because you know that's not going to go well? Or is that something that the person needs to do themselves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a third party can definitely file a police report. The only thing with that is that you're not able to remain anonymous. So when you call the police non-emergency line, you do have to provide your information. That doesn't mean it would go to the individual who's experiencing abuse, but you would have to provide that information to the police. But you can definitely do that. You can file a report, and there's also an elder abuse response team it's the police, and they also work with social workers.
Okay.
And so there are situations as well. Of course, the police have to assess the risk of the situation, but sometimes they might send social workers in place of officers, or social workers as well as officers, to kind of get a handle on the situation, see what's going on, and how they could support.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to shift over a little bit from specific abuse in the household to external abuse and bullies and scammers and just not nice people. So you get, you need to get some home renovation work done, or you need to go and purchase a new washer and dryer, or, you need to have somebody do some work for you. What are some of the techniques that people use to pressure, other people into making a quick decision? So providing a signature, providing information, paying a deposit up, like what are the red flags that somebody's doing a high pressure sales that's not in your best interest?
Yeah, I would say typically they're acting with a lot of urgency. I know that I've fallen for this before too, where
So have I.
yeah, and so it's like, this is a panic situation, and I need you to help me right now, or I need you to provide me with this information right now. They might have a backstory about a crisis that they're experiencing, things like that. And so kind of that high intensity, they do it for a reason, and that's because it puts us into that same mindset. And so then we're not thinking rationally, we're not maybe making calm, thoughtful decisions. And so it's just really important to take a step back, to slow down. It's not as urgent as these people are making it out to be. And unfortunately, we do just have to be really vigilant. If you receive a call, or you receive an email, or things like that, and it kind of seems to be a bit of a red flag, I would say 9 times out of 10, that's there for a reason. Your gut is telling you that this is maybe not legitimate. And so it's important to listen to those instincts.
Okay, so what are some of the techniques that we can use to kind of calm ourselves down and give us power again in the situation? So how do you take that step back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a lot of different techniques, and I think something that works for one person might not work for another person. In terms of maybe urgent phone calls like that, or a person at your door or whatever else, maybe just counting to three, taking a few deep breaths, making sure that you're kind of just calming yourself down to be able to respond to the situation effectively. In terms of calming our nerves, maybe when we're about to go and speak to someone about our concerns for them, things like that, I would say you can again take some breaths, go for a walk. I know I love listening to music to calm down, or even cleaning my house. And so, yeah, what works for one person might be different for another person, but
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot of different ways for sure.
So if you have a salesperson
Mm-hmm.
in your face, it's okay to say, you know what, give me 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
exactly.
nothing should change in 5 minutes. Like,
Exactly, yeah.
yeah,
And
you're not
if
going
they
to lose the
really,
sale in
yeah.
5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, if they really want your money, then they're going to wait. And maybe you call a trusted person and say, "Hey, this is what happened. Does this sound legitimate to you?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?" And yeah, it's not a person that you know. You don't know this person, and so even if maybe you're worried about hurting their feelings, it's just a quick 5-minute interaction. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you decide my default is always going to be, I want to think about this for 5 minutes, then just make that your default no matter what, and make that a habit.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if we start to feel uncomfortable or scared uh, in a situation,
Mm-hmm.
what can we do to remove ourselves from the situation without escalating? So, whether it's on the phone with somebody, that one's easy. You can just hang up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you've got a landscaper or somebody who's going to aerate your lawn or somebody who's supposed to fix a crack in your foundation or, something like that. Or if you're in an office
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, uh, some place that sells stuff, but you're just not feeling safe.
Mm-hmm.
How would you suggest kind of removing yourself if without letting them know that you're freaked out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's important to just let them know I just need a moment. And you might be feeling kind of panicked inside, and so once you say I need a moment, you can do whatever tools you have to be able to calm down. So if you say I need a moment, and then you take your deep breaths, or I need a moment and you walk away, or I need a moment and you give your daughter a call, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just intentionally creating a bit of a gap or a pause in that conversation can do wonders for being able to kind of calm yourself, collect your thoughts, and then revisit the interaction.
My favorite is I have to go to the bathroom. You're just going to have to excuse me for a minute.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
that's perfect.
nobody should be telling you, oh, no, you can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Um, what about in the home?
Mm-hmm.
You use the trick of I just have to run to the washroom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you are feeling unsafe in the home, just leave and then call somebody to come over, leave the person in the house. Is that what's like if you're
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes you have somebody come over and they're like giving you a quote and you're sitting at the kitchen table and
Mm-hmm.
then just something just your spidey senses start to
Right.
tingle. What's the best option
Mm-hmm.
for something like that?
Yeah, I mean, personally, if I don't know somebody, I wouldn't want to invite them into my home. And so if it is someone who's coming over for landscaping or things like that, I would meet them outside, maybe meet them at a coffee shop. Maybe if it is a scenario where someone does have to come inside, I would plan for that in advance and say, I'm going to have my friend present for this conversation, things like that. So as much as you can, just kind of taking those proactive measures so that it's not a situation where you do have someone, a stranger who's unsafe in your home, who's causing a safety risk.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of sums up everything that we're going to talk about. So let's just recap everything that we've talked about. So red flags for somebody who's being abused. Quickly, what are we looking for?
Yeah, so physical signs, bruising, scratches, broken bones, or any sort of concerning change in behavior.
Okay. Asking questions without being pushy.
Yeah, just being broad, expressing your concern, asking more general questions, maybe making observations rather than accusations.
Okay. How to ask the blunt, hard questions.
It takes courage for sure.
Yeah.
I think if you have asked those questions in maybe a more vague sense and you're getting the indication this is definitely an abusive situation, I I wish that I had some more advice. It is really nerve-wracking to ask those hard questions,
Yeah.
but just I guess trying to remind yourself this is really important and I want to keep this person safe.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, I do have to have
Yeah.
the hard discussion.
Just flat out, do you feel like somebody's taking advantage of you?
Exactly.
Just say it and normalize it.
Yeah.
All right. Best ways to support the people we care about.
Staying connected is a big one, making sure that you're connecting with your loved ones, whether it be over the phone or in person, making sure that they know that you're there for them so that if something unsafe does occur, they know who they can call, making sure that you follow through on what you say you're going to do, making sure that you're communicating. So if you are supporting someone with different tasks or things like that, making sure you're communicating every step of the way. This is what I'm going to do. This is why.
Okay. Red flags for high pressure sales and scammers.
Yeah, so it's in the question. I would say is that high pressure. So if it feels really urgent, if they want money right now, that's definitely a red flag. If they're asking to come into your house or if they're detailing a crisis situation, all of those things are meant to kind of put you or throw you off so that you're not vigilant. And so just making sure that you take that step back and really think critically before giving into that high pressure feeling.
Okay. Suggestions for taking control of a situation.
That's a
I know.
it's a broad question. I would say taking control of the situation would be taking control of yourself. We can't always control situations. We can't control other people. And so just doing your best to stay grounded and making sure that you're taking control of your own body language, your own reactions, your breathing, all of those things.
And then asking them to just wait while you hit the bathroom.
Exactly.
Ways to remove yourself from a uncomfortable situation. So obviously, we just talked about the excuse of using the bathroom. Other suggestions that somebody might be able to use, like make a phone call, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So just creating that pause. So take a step back, go to the bathroom, make the phone call, tell them you need 5 minutes. Tell them that you need to step out. You can even if you don't make a phone call, maybe you could just say, I'm getting a call, I have to step away.
Yeah.
And those are kind of some ways to create a bit of a gap for you to be able
Bit of space. Okay. Now, before I ask this last question, I encourage, again, anybody who is joining us today to ask their questions in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer those for you. So if you are experiencing or witnessing abuse and you don't know where to turn, what do you do?
Yeah, if you don't know where to turn, I would recommend calling our Unison's Elder Abuse Resource Line. So that phone number is 403-705-3250. Anybody can call anytime. It's a 24/7 phone line. You can remain anonymous with that phone line as well. So we're not the people who are going to your home. We give resources or advice over the phone, but anybody can call just for a consultation, and we can kind of help you steer you in the right direction of what might those next steps look like.
All right. It looks like I think we covered everybody's questions.